Living a life worthy of the calling. Our scripture is taken from Ephesians 4, chapter 4, verse 1, from the Complete Jewish Bible. If you have some other edition, look it up. You can follow it. It's pretty well similar. And it's from Paul, who says, "Therefore I, the prisoner united with the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called." I've reviewed in the first clip the first and second method by which we live this life worthy of calling. First of all was to be humble. The second was to be gentle, not Gentile. And the third is by being patient. Does one need a doctor to be a patient? How often do we, get short with each other? Not one person learns using the identical methods. Some do it by hearing words. Just by what I'm saying here, there are people out there who are watching this video. By listening to the words that I choose in my communication, will learn something. There'll be others who will be looking at this video, and it won't be so much my words, but it's my body and language that is going to speak to them, and they'll learn something by it. And still others, need a pretty well a list of instructions, and still others need a whole diagram. That's why when you build things, I put this new desk together, and it came, and I don't have them handy right now, but it came with a whole booklet of instructions, you see. And this says instruction thing, but it says assembly instructions, but I want to show you something, alright? Not one word. Okay, it's all drawings and numbers, and you put 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, and it comes together, and it shows you supposedly a computer desk that looks like this, which mine does. But when you follow instructions like this, do you ever notice you're left with things like this? Pieces left over that don't seem to make any sense. And they have them listed in their thing, but nowhere in the schematics does it show where they're supposed to go. So I'm left with a couple pieces of metal. Anybody into metal recycling? Contact Bethesda. I'll be happy to sell them to you. I tell you. But we all have different ways of learning things. I just learned not to trust what you see before your head. And just because we have different ways that we learn things, what doesn't work for one does not mean that they should be relegated to the stigma of being stupid. I myself am one individual who have suffered on a personal level because of the use of words. See, in the English language, a certain word can conjure the wrong idea. Or even worse, I might assume what I know is the meaning of a word. That's why I keep 2 or 3 of these things they're called dictionaries handy. So when I use a definition of a word, I always say I'm quoting from the Canadian English Dictionary of the Collins, or I use the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Simply because when you look up a certain word, it doesn't always mean the same thing, such as the word fly. To move through the air, but it also means a 2-winged insect. So when I say, hey, you're a fly, there's a third term that isn't even in the dictionary. To be fly is an expression today. It's kind of bad grammar, actually. It means that you're smooth, you're okay, you're hip, you're all right, you're fly. So it has nothing to do with those two. And if somebody said that to me, I might get miscommunicated by what I hear. You're a fly. They may think, oh, the guy thinks I'm buggy. But he didn't mean that. Does he mean that I can float through the air? Maybe he thinks I'm a bit of a flake because he says I can fly. But we have only one word, and I found that I would assume that I knew a meaning of the word and what the person meant by the word, only to find out when I grabbed the dictionary I didn't really have a clue. By painting the picture round, by taking the words I did know the meaning of, I assumed what I knew the meaning of. A lot of Bible theologians out there assume they know what they're talking about, but they're only using the Greek and they're not using the Hebrew. Until we get to the mindset, you don't have to go word to word, but the mindset of how people think. If I want to understand Plato, I don't grab the Torah, because Plato was Greek, and I would have to get into the Greek mindset on how Greeks think and rationalize and view the world to understand Plato. But for some reason, we seem to think in theology that if we apply the Greek mindset on how things are perceived, that we'll catch the idea of what it means to be Yeshua in the Hebrew world. I suffered not only because it aggravated me to find out that I'm embarrassed now because I misunderstood what the other person was trying to say. But what really would add salt to the wound, oftentimes, was a lack of patience of the individual that was waiting for me to understand them. There are those new ones in our midst. Now, some of them are no more than curious. They want to know what goes on in a Messianic service, and they come to our house meetings, or they'll come to your synagogue if you're big enough to hold one, though Messianic synagogues are a rarity. They'll come to your place of worship and meeting because they got a curiosity. What goes on in there? Are they sacrificing babies? They don't know. And so it's more a curiosity, and they'll be there when Shabbat to take in a service, and they've gotten the curiosity fulfilled. They see what's going on, and then they leave. And you'll never see them again. But then there are ones who keep coming because why? They have sincere desire to understand, to get to know this Yeshua, to get to know the Hebrew mindset, to get to know the meaning behind the words, even down to the very letters that we have. Yes, I understand that we have suspicions, and Messianic history has taught us very well of this behavior. But we should not worry about those that don't accept us or for who we are or what we are. And we get it from both schools. We got to remember, most importantly, we may be stuck in this world, but that does not require for us to start acting like the rest of this world. And also remember who we represent. We're the emissaries of the HaMashiach, the Yeshua himself. We're his ambassadors to this planet. We need to get across past our petty self-pity and our self-punishment and our self-superstitions and suspicions, and start relying on the one true, the great I am, the Elohim of the Elohim, the Father and God of all gods, the Master of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. We got to start acting like his emissaries, like diplomats in a world that's not worthy of us. We are to be his light. See you next week. Shalom. This is Daniel.